Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bankroll Burners, the poker podcast for players who can't stop getting it in bad. I'm Mike,
And I'm Josh.
and as you can see, we are on video for the first time ever. Woo!
Yeah, the first time we've ever tried this, and it's working swimmingly.
Yes. For those of you who are paying attention, you may have noticed there was no episode last week. And why is that? Well, because not only are we bad at poker, we're also bad at technology, apparently. And we recorded an entire episode with video that failed to record. So, yay.
Yep, exactly. So, oops, our bad, as the kids say.
Yep.
But it is what it is, and it appears to have fixed itself. So we're excited to get back at you with a standard episode. 4 poker hands coming your way. Tell us how badly we played them in the comments, and enjoy the episode.
Absolutely.
So, how did this week go for you poker wise, Mike?
This week was fine. I didn't get to play a lot, unfortunately. I played a short online session and a long late night live session. Between those two sessions, I made a very, very small profit. So we're talking like maybe $50. So it is what it is. But it's okay. The live session was a lot of fun. It was a late night, like 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. type of deal, which isn't something I do a lot because it totally screws up my sleep schedule. But once in a while, it can be fun. The 2 hands I'm going to be sharing today are actually from that live session.
Cool. Yeah, I had a usual encore 1-3 session when I made it over one day and got pretty crushed, but that's them's the beats.
Seems normal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what else do you expect, right? And I actually did play at a table with a couple players who knew what they were doing and were also pretty good for the game, which is nice. I don't mind playing with people who are good as long as they're not sitting there silently acting like robots.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. I will say this game I played in that was sort of a late night game was very good, a lot of action. There was one guy at this table. He might be the biggest nit I've ever played with. In the 3 hours he was at the table, he played 2 hands, exactly 2.
Were they both aces?
No, this was a weird thing. One of them was ace 7 offsuit, and one of them was 10-9 of spades. So I don't really know
It feels
what
like
is going on.
every week you play at a table with the new biggest nit you've ever
I
played
know,
with.
like I don't understand. I mean, I don't even know if that it qualifies as a nit or just like I I don't know.
So
Some
just
people call
wait
that
until we're at the same table. I mean, then you can really say you played with the biggest net you've ever played with.
That's true. Yeah, every week a new nit. So
Well, cool.
all right,
Why don't we hop into it? Sounds like you're gonna give us a hand from this 2-5 live game, and this is Best Bet Orange Park. Is that right?
that's right. This is Best Bet Orange Park, 2-5, 500 cap. And both hands are going to be against the same villain who was seated on my immediate left. She was quite a competent player. She had a great session. I think she ended the night up like 2K or something. So,
Awesome. Good for her.
yeah, and these were both pretty interesting spots. One of them, I think I played this hand. I played one of them so badly. It's like probably like I couldn't have played it worse type of deal. So we'll save that one for last. Like I couldn't have played any street worse. So, but we'll start with the other one. So this one was fairly early on in the night. So the straddle was not on much yet. So
Okay.
this is just 2-5. We are 550 effective with the main villain, and in this hand, the hijack, who is a fine player, nothing really noteworthy about them. It's going to fold to them, and they're going to open it up to 25. Which the standard open in this game is usually 20, but people go anywhere between 20 and 30, and that doesn't mean too much.
Wow, that's pretty big. Considering that it's relatively short stacked too.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 5x when you're only sitting 100 big blinds deep ish. So that can make for some dicey short stack spots pretty quickly on the flop or the turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say normally, like 30 is pretty abnormal, but last night a lot of people were doing it. I don't know why.
Okay.
So he opens to 25, and I'm on the button. with 9 of hearts, 9 of clubs. And I think I have a pretty standard call here.
Yeah, I think it's fine to 3-bet also. I think people do like to 3-bet. I think 9s is kind of the cutoff, so to speak, even though you're on the button.
No, I'm on the button, not the
Yeah, very funny. 9s are, because I think pocket 10s would be, you would definitely slam dunk 3-bet. So I think 9s are probably a borderline 3-bet. Fine, just get it heads up, build the pot. I mean, especially if this player has been opening a reasonable amount and is not nitty.
Yeah, agreed. I have no problem with a 3-bet here, and I will 3-bet 9s from the button at some frequency. Certainly, if I was in the cutoff, I'm absolutely 3-betting 9s there. I should drive other players out, drive the button out. But in this case, I just called. And here, the small blind, who's going to be the main villain with whom we are 550 effective, kicks it up to 120.
Wow, actually choosing a good 3-bet sizing.
Yeah, I think it's a little small. I think probably standard sizing would be what? 4x plus the dead money. So, I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah.
It's just about right. I mean,
120, 125, whatever.
But the average live 3-bet sizing in this scenario is like 70.
You're absolutely right. I mean,
so
how to size their 3-bets.
This is, by the way, is a one great way to tell if someone kind of knows what they're doing, has studied theory, or what. Is just actually looking at some of their sizings. Like, again, people just don't go 3x plus 1 per caller plus 1 for out of position, as a standard that often. Like, I have seen, bet or raise to 15, call, 3-bet to 40. And then they get upset when everybody calls. And it's like, wow, no way.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, this person absolutely sizes correctly. And so the hijack folds. And I think we have to call here. I don't really think I can't imagine 4-betting is correct, and we can have the best hand a lot. So I think folding is crazy. So I think this is just a call.
Yeah, I think calling here is fine. Again, I think it's kind of an uncomfortable situation, but and again, maybe this is if your table's playing pretty aggressively, then 3-betting here from the initially makes a lot more sense, just to avoid putting yourself in this sort of situation where the pot gets quite big. We have kind of a borderline hand, and so even though we're in position, so that's just a thought on
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I think if the small blind was a very aggressive player, I'm definitely 3-betting 9s to disincentivize them to squeeze light. However, this player, they were a competent player, but they were not getting after it like that. So
right,
there was not a lot of 3-betting going on at this table in general.
Okay, great. So we make the call, and so there's about 270 in the pot, it looks like, and we've got 430-ish behind.
Yep, that's about right. And which isn't my favorite SPR with a pocket, with a non-premium pocket pair. Obviously you're absolutely not getting the odds to set mine, but we can have the best handle on it. So
yeah.
The flop is pretty interesting. It's Queen of Diamonds, 7 of Hearts, 3 of Diamonds.
Okay, so we don't have a diamond. It's a pretty dry. I mean, it's about as dry as you can get, huh? So I'd expect to face a C-bet here a lot of the time. Don't love the queen, but obviously we're still ahead of things like ace-king, wheel aces if she's 3-betting those.
Yep, ace-jack suited.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and also small, suited connectors, we're beating those. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she absolutely c-bets, and this sort of standard size down to $60 here. It's actually quite small.
Really small.
I would say it's a quarter pot, because pot is, what do we say? It's $2.65. It's actually less than a quarter pot. So, yeah, it's kind of small, but I don't think I'm not attacking this raise. I think I just have a square call.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to raise. If we raise, we just fold out the worst, fold out any ace kings she may have and get snapped off by any over pairs or ace queens or anything. So I think just calling and evaluating is the right move here. I guess the one note would be that this maybe, there is some merit. Maybe she's sizing down here because that sets up basically a pot-sized turn shove, right? Because this makes the pot now, I assume we call and now the pot's 390 and we've got 370 behind, right? So that basically, if that's going through her head, then that might make sense why the flop bet is a bit smaller than normal, just because she wants to get calls from, most of your range and then just jam like every turn.
Yeah, yeah, that was going through my head too, and but that isn't actually what happens here. So
Okay, great.
the turn now is the 8 of spades, which is, I mean, it's a brick basically. I mean, it completes nothing,
It completes her 7-8 suited, of which there are 2 combos, and that's it.
You're correct. It does complete 7-8 suited. And after some time, Villain does something pretty interesting, which is she bets 130, which is like a third pot.
That is interesting.
It's gonna leave me, if she jams river here, I'm gonna get like insane. If I call and then she jams river, I'm gonna get some insane odds. So I don't know. What are you thinking here?
This is definitely a weird spot. I mean, I wonder if she can almost do this with like her whole range. Like I don't, just because like it does really change nothing. There's like no draws that have gotten in. It's a little weird to bet so small. Like maybe she wants you to call with draws, but obviously you're like very priced in here to call with like any draw basically. Pretty much getting the direct odds, at least, I guess not really with a flush draw or a straight draw, but you're probably getting the implied odds to call.
Oh yeah, when any like non-gut shot draw, I absolutely have the implied odds to call here.
So it's a weird spot. I mean, it's just a weird spot because I think she could totally be doing this still with over pairs. Like she might not want to jam and make you fold one of these like middling pocket pairs. Or this could kind of indicate like, a weaker made hand, right? Like jacks or tens or something that is second pair, but is a good second pair and just doesn't want to necessarily, jam and fold out the parts of your range that she's beating.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well. I mean, I tanked for a while on this turn, which is weird because it was such a small bet, but I was just like, what? Like, Am I supposed to turn my hand into a bluff? Am I supposed to fold? Like getting this crazy price. I mean, my hand can't really improve. Like really, like I have one clean out as the 9 of spades. But like, if she's, although I guess it's conceivable she has Jack 10 suited here also, so it's not even that clean. So yeah, like my hand can't improve. So like I guess if I call here, I hope it goes check. But then do I even win when that happens? Like. Ugh,
I know you're just getting such good odds. It's kind of a gross spot, but like this is kind of what happens, right? If we like flat and then call pre-flop with 9s, we're kind of saying like it's such a good hand. Like it's a pair, it's ahead of a lot of her range. We're kind of committing ourselves to calling these small sizings. It's just kind of an awkward SPR that if she goes small, it just happens to be for our whole stack.
Right. No, I mean I think this is really like. On the one hand, I double flatted pre-flop, so if I'm in Villain's position, I'm probably sticking it in on the turn with most of my range because I want to put a ton of pressure on a double flat range. Right. But on the flip side, you can make this case for like, well, a double flat range is going to be one pair a lot, and if I have a made hand, I could probably get 3 streets if I go small. So I think it's pretty clever from Villain certainly, and I was sort of at a loss. I ended up calling. I don't know that that's right, though.
Well, and I wonder if there's some merit, even though this is not necessarily... I don't know if this is, like, allowed, but I wonder if there's some merit to, like, calling turn and folding river if she jams. Like, just because it's, like, never going to be a bluff when she goes, like, small. Like, even though you're going to be getting... you'll have to call, like, 260 to win, like, 650, right? You'll be getting, like, 2.5 to 1, basically.
Yeah.
It's like which is just like I don't know if you're gonna find a bluff. It'd be kind of crazy for her to go like small with ace king, right? That's just like
ace king, maybe ace king suit, like ace king of diamonds.
Yeah, and I feel like ace king of diamonds wants like a jam turn, right? As you said, to put the pressure on. So I don't know. It's just a weird spot. But I think calling turn. I mean, I feel like we have to call turn for this sizing. But
my plan was to call turn and fold river if she jammed.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, just because I don't see her going. I think it would be very creative line to go sort of small with like an unpaired hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's kind of basically saying like I have a marginal made hand, that like I think is the best hand. Like that's how I would read this betting. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the river comes. The river is a diamond. It's the 5 of diamonds.
Okay, so it's not the most money saving card I've ever seen, because again, I feel like diamond draws are just one of those hands that makes me want to be shoving turn with a lot of the range, just because if you have a draw, you want to fold out your like pocket nines. But
I wonder if you ever play like 7-6 of diamonds this way. I think it'd be wrong to, but someone might. Like people do weird things with pair plus flush draw. So
someone might. That's true. Obviously, if the river was like an ace or a king, I think we could probably be much happier about folding. Yeah. Like if she bets, but maybe the action goes check and we just beat like ace king.
Yeah, well that's not what happens. So villain jams.
All right,
and I lay it down pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to fold here for all the reasons we discussed on the turn. And I mean, I think that here even like a lot of her hands do improve if she did decide to play this way with any flush draws, where she like maybe she kind of made the decision to go small with like her whole range almost, just to put max pressure and put you in like just this awful spot on the river. So it's not inconceivable that some flush draws made it here. It's also not inconceivable that she has ace king or ace jack that are not in diamonds, but like I do think that's much less likely than her having some sort of made hand here.
Yeah, well, she told me later she had pocket jacks.
Right, so that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the river? Like, is that too thin on the river? I don't actually think it is too thin, but I think I might not have had the guts to make that river bet. But I think it's. I mean, what are you getting called? Like, I feel like there's just so much queen X in my range, maybe, but maybe not after I tank for so long in the turn. I don't know.
Now so the question is from the villain's perspective, right? If you put yourself in the villain's shoes, if you check river and the button jams, are you calling? Because it's only because you're getting such insane odds.
Interesting.
Because I think the answer is probably yes, especially if you have a diamond, just because you're getting such great odds and like. When you check, a lot of villains are going to perceive that as weakness. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then you may as well just jam.
Right, if you're calling anyway.
Yeah, like, I don't know, I think...
Although, like, if it goes check and you win... I mean, I guess you're saying, like... If it goes check, I probably win, which I think is true.
Right.
And then, so, like... And if it goes check jam... Then I'm calling.
And like, what are the draws?
Just put my stack in and see if I can get called by worse.
And what are like the draws? Right, because hands that are worse than you are definitely checking it back. Because if the main flush draw got there and the board was so dry on the flop, like you just like the button shouldn't have like 9-10 that often, right? Like or some weird missed straight draw, because like maybe specifically like 9-10 of hearts, right? Like double backdoor, but like that's not good. Like that's not a good backdoor, right? It's like only a backdoor flush draw, but it's kind of interesting. So I think her play is pretty good. I don't know. I think
very solid. I think like maybe their lesson here is just 3-bet nines pre, but I don't think that 3-betting nines 100% could possibly be correct. I think it's good to use a mixed strategy there. So but pretty interesting hand, I thought.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, so my hand, it's actually interesting. Both of my hands are going to be against the same villain as well. I like this villain. He also kind of knows what he's doing. He is definitely very aggressive. I've picked off a number of bluffs before from him. I've played with him a couple times before. He like made, and some of his bluffs, sometimes he does just go a little crazy. I basically, like I wound up, there was this one time, like I had ace high. He check raised me on like 10-4-4 rainbow or something, so I just call, and then the turn is a blank and he barrels big and I call, and the river is a 10 double pairing the board and he jams, and I'm like, okay, you just obviously don't have anything, and I called and he just mucked. So he may not be I think he does try and play aggressive in spots where it might not make sense, but I also think he is pretty solid and has a pretty he raises a lot, he doesn't limp a lot, definitely has some understanding of the game.
He's what they call a lag.
And I don't know that he's necessarily that loose, or if maybe, and to be fair, his play probably works a lot of the time against a lot of players. In the board double pairs, they'll just like throw away over pairs in frustration because they're like, he must have a boat here. So I don't even hate that play necessarily, but I kind of have that background where he is aggressive and he can get out of line for sure. So in this particular hand, I am in the hijack. We're playing 1-3 at the encore. It's $500 cap, and we're in. And basically, the effective stack is around 500. He has sat down pretty recently at this point. Lot of turnover at the tables because it's like 7 p.m. So it's kind of people getting off work and a lot of new players cycling in. So I am sitting in the hijack here with 9-7 of hearts. Okay. I'm going to open it up. It's late position, no limpers, just kind of, which is shocking.
I think you maybe need to fold this hand.
9-7 suited from the hijack?
Yeah, I mean, not to be pre-flop police, but you think about like how you construct your range. You actually don't need that many suited connectors and suited one-gappers to construct your range properly. If you play a lot of suited aces, which I know we are both fond of doing, if you look at a lot of the charts, like unless you're at like a table, I mean, even then, I don't know. Like I think that you would rather construct your range with 9-8, 8-7, 7-6, 6-5, than you would to play these one-gappers. Like 10-8, I think for some reason solvers like to play 10-8 as like a one-gapper. And maybe but even more than Jack 9 for some reason. But I think like 9-7 from the hijack is too many hands.
Yeah, and I just decided I decided to double check one of the ranged viewers, after the fact, and I think that I just from a course that I took on Live Cash a while ago, and it basically says open raise with tight players behind or weak blinds, which is probably not the case because this guy is sitting in the big blind, and I know he's pretty likely to defend. So that you may be right that 9-7 and 10-8 and 8-6 are kind of pushing the envelope of being too much. Obviously if it's offsuit, I would not. Yeah. Believe it or not, I can fold pre-flop once in a while, but point taken that can probably just fold this pre-flop.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that it's a bad hand. It's just like you don't need that many suited connectors in your range. So.
Right. People like to think of suited connectors as being like made hands and strong, when really it's like 9 high.
Right.
I have definitely seen people say that suited connectors are like strong hands and ace king is a drawing hand at the same time. So
nothing wrong with that logic.
Yeah. Anyway, my plan backfires. The cutoff calls and the big blind also calls. So we're going to be going 3 ways here to a flop, which not ideal. But the flop. I mean, the flop does give me some hope.
What was the open size? What was it?
15, which is pretty much the standard open size 1-3 here. So I opened to 15 from the hijack. The cutoff calls. The big blind calls. The big blind is the main villain here. We're playing 500 effective. The flop is going to come ace, 10, rainbow with 1 heart.
The ace of hearts?
It is not the ace of hearts. It's the 10 of hearts.
Interesting. All right.
The big blind checks. I think I have to c-bet this even multi-way. I mean, I'm just going to get a lot of folds from hands that have me beat.
Yeah. Lots of offsuit broadways that people are probably over-VPing.
Oh, they're going to call. They have a gut shot. Anyway, I bet 15. The cutoff folds quickly. He's a pretty tight player. I didn't think he was going to be sticking around. But the villain, the big blind, is going to make the call pretty quickly. I see bet 15. I don't know if I said that, but a third pot. I mean, I could go 10, but 10 and 15, it doesn't really make a difference in how live players view it.
I mean, obviously, if you get raised here, you're folding, I imagine.
Yes. But it would be a weird spot to raise just because, like, it's ace, 10. I just have a massive range advantage.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, if the turn is like the deuce of clubs, are you shutting down here?
I think if the turn is the deuce of clubs, I would shut down because I think when somebody calls you on these boards, my thought is it's very likely an ace.
Okay.
I mean, it's not always an ace.
I think there's lots of small pocket pairs too.
Yeah, but I think I can shut down. Like I can always check back the turn and like bet river too, because I think I'd do that a lot with like, with my own pairs and like tens and like good tens and stuff, right? Like king 10 suited would probably play that way. But the turn is actually quite good for me. It's the 6 of hearts. So now the now
So
the
you turn a gut shot straight flush draw.
yeah, so the board comes the board is now ace ace 10 6, and we've got the 10 and the 6 of hearts. The aces are obviously offsuit.
You have 9-7 of hearts.
And the big blind checks to me. So obviously I'm going to bet here. This is definitely a card that I would like to continue bluffing on. And I think that I would like to take a relatively large sizing. What kind of size? I assume that you want to bet here, and what kind of sizing do you like?
I do want to bet my straight flush draw. Yeah. Well, we have to think about, is the big blind capped here? Like, because he never has a strong ace. So this, like, you think that he has some weak aces in his hand, so he can have trips here. So, like that, he never has boats, and like you have some boats, but not a lot of boats. So I don't really like, but like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't really think you have a massive nut advantage here. I don't think he's that capped, so I don't really want to overbet, which is something I would do a lot with like super strong draws like this. But I don't think you want to overbet here. I think you probably want to take. I mean, the pot's like it's like 75, right? So I probably want to bet 3/4, so maybe like 60-ish.
Okay, yeah, I wind up betting 50. I agree with that. I mean, I think I do want to go large, and I think I probably could have gone larger. Yeah, I mean, he can obviously have like ace-6 offsuit, like a lot more than I can, right? He can, I mean, he probably shouldn't be defending multi-way with like offsuit aces, but he could. People love playing their aces, but anyway, I decided to bet 50. I think I could have sized up a bit, gone 60 or even like 70. But he winds up he kind of thinks for a little bit and then he calls. So the pot is now 175. And just want to talk a little bit about how you, before I tell you the river, what do you think about playing river bricks here? Would you be continuing? Ordinarily, right, if the board is not paired, and especially if the board is not paired with an ace, like I would be barreling a lot on rivers, like on brick rivers, because, straight flush draws are kind of good hands to just like, structure as triple barrel bluffs. It's a little weird because I didn't flop a straight flush draw, I turned it. And it's also weird because like aces are just way overplayed. And I don't mean people overplay aces, I mean people play way too many aces, because people just love seeing aces in their hand. So it makes me, that to me makes me a little wary to be triple barreling on bricks, but interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. So the pot now is, you said
it's 175.
175, and your stacks are something like 420, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you should bet brick rivers I think you should take an overbet sizing on the river, because now he has capped himself. He can no longer have a strong ace. I mean, he can still have trips, but I even think most, like, he could have like ace deuce trips, like really bad trips. I think he's capped himself at bad trips. So I'm betting brick rivers, and I'm taking an overbet sizing. We now have a pretty extreme nut advantage, where we have both. I mean, maybe we don't have an extreme nut advantage, but we now have a pretty extreme range advantage. Right. And a little nut advantage. So I would take an overbet sizing. I wouldn't do anything crazy. I'm not going to jam. I'm going to stick it in his face, but I'd probably take like 1.25x.
Like 200, you're basically.
Like 225, yeah.
Now, and what if the river is like a deuce of hearts? What are you thinking? Are you still overbetting for value?
Sure, betting 225. Yeah. I mean, well, I guess you're saying, does he have...
No. If the river is just a brick heart, I didn't necessarily mean a deuce. If the river is some heart, because he can probably have any random low ace, right? So...
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think he ever has a flush draw here. Like, he shouldn't have hearts, and you can't have hearts. So again, I want to take an overbet size.
Okay. Well, I think that's totally fair, and this is kind of a spot where maybe I was overthinking it a bit, and I was kind of thinking, I want to be shutting down a lot of brick rivers, because like, when he calls twice, I do think players like don't necessarily check raise their trips all that often when it's an ace, because they think, and especially when you have kind of an aggressive image, players do like to play a little bit more, I don't know, trappy, not necessarily trappy, but just thinking, oh yeah, he'll bet. And I had this happen a number of times actually, where people wound up like checking really strong hands and like picking off bluffs. Definitely fresh in my mind that I had just bluffed into trips in the session too. But anyway, which is not a good way to be thinking about it. And I think your reasoning all makes sense that his range will often be capped, and even a weak ace may fold river a lot.
Right, I mean, we're targeting, with that sizing, we're targeting a weak ace, because if he has anything worse, he'll fold to something smaller. So that's a sizing to try to get a weak ace to fold. And I think a lot of people will, at least in my experience. People go, my kicker's no good. I had ace 4 offsuit. It's like, okay.
Do you think that he'll be calling turn with 10x? I assume he will be calling turn with 10x. Do you think he'll be calling turn with anything worse? Like, will he fold his pocket 9s, pocket 8s on the turn? What?
I think he will. Yeah.
So I should basically be targeting an ace or maybe a 10, a sticky
maybe
10.
A strong 10. Yeah, like king 10.
Okay. Well, the river winds up coming the deuce of clubs, which is, the textbook brick. He checks, and I decide to check back, but I think that, that's why I wanted to discuss this hand, because I felt I wasn't 100% sure what I should have done. I felt a little, just with the paired ace, I always have trouble navigating these sort of paired boards and backdoor draws and all that. And he shows 10-9 offsuit. And I was like, damn, definitely could have gotten him off that. And honestly, probably could have gotten him off a lot of weak aces too with a large sizing. So, obviously, I would have been much less upset if he had showed me like ace 3. But sure. That's that. There you go.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think like people really don't notice, myself included, when they check call certain boards, how that really, where there's like so few kind of strong hands they could have to begin with, which is the case on this board, and then you think like, oh, he's check called twice now. Like if he had one of those strong hands, he would be check raising at least sometimes.
Right.
So like now the like number of times that I'm in the situation where they have a strong hand and they have played it this way is so rare, they're basically capped. And I should get after it. So.
Well, I think that makes sense. That's a good way to think about it.
So cool.
Awesome. Well, why don't we move on to your second hand, which is against the same player, I guess, the same competent player taking good 3-bet sizings and these cool triple barrel small bet lines.
Yeah. In this hand, I think I just could not have played this hand worse. Like this, after this hand, I was like, I am such a terrible poker player, which is true. So it's good to like be reminded of that. But yeah, I really can't fathom how or why I played this hand the way I did. I mean, I can explain some of my reasoning in real time, but it's very fallacious. So
great.
Anyway.
We just went through that, so I'll be glad to hear it from your side as well.
Yeah. So this is 2-5-10 now. The straddle was on about half the hands. By the time we got like halfway through the night, the straddle was on for half the hands. And this was the straddle. So, in this hand, I am in the big blind. That is the middle blind. I have king 7 of spades.
And what's the effective stacks here?
All right, $700. So we are 70 big blinds effective with the straddle. I am the effective stack. Villain covers me by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, she wound up 2,000. She better cover you at this point.
Yeah. So, and we are 6-handed. And one thing that I had noticed about this villain is she was playing a lot of hands pre-flop, like too many hands.
Okay.
So,
see where this is going.
What?
I said I see where this is going.
Well, no, my thought was that like a hand like king 7 suited, which so first of all, what happens is under the gun +1, I guess, limps and it folds to me. And ordinarily I would raise this hand. It's not a very good hand, but it's a hand that has fine post-flop playability. So I would raise this hand to steal the blinds and then maybe play an awkward post-flop hand out of position if I have to. But I decided that because I was very unlikely to steal the blinds, I decided to just limp. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's fine to like over limp a good amount of the time. I actually think like you can put like a lot of hands into an over limping range from like, or like I guess this is really a completing range, like from the small blind in normal poker and from the big blind here, like just kind of hands that have good implied odds, just because you don't need to call that much more. like if you're getting like such insane odds if you like think
Right.
about the actual odds that your odds of flopping a not flopping but making a flush at some point or like a two pair is like pretty reasonable even when you don't think like your odds of winning against their ranges is like pretty good even when you don't consider implied odds. So I think over limping here is fine. I think you definitely can complete here. I don't think there's anything wrong with raising just to steal the blinds because you do have a pretty playable hand. But if you don't think you're gonna have that much fold equity, then I don't think that raising makes a lot of sense because this is obviously not a premium hand.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I actually think I was wrong, to be honest. Like, I appreciate you defending my player, but I think it's wrong because if Villain is playing a lot of hands pre and I'm going to get called a lot, then I can just apply a lot of pressure to what is basically a very weak range and probably, make more money by single barrel, double barrel type of things. So,
yeah, but I do think from the small blind. I mean, I'm looking again at the sort of range viewer and just thinking it kind of like small blind completion where you pretty much can complete with like most suited kings. And obviously that does apply more if there are more limps too, because then you like really have no fold equity. But I think that especially when there's like a player to act and you have limps, the odds of you getting a bunch of folds, like everyone to fold, is just not that likely, and your hand is like pretty marginal. So I really like think over limping is like a fine thing to do with like a lot of kind of weak suited hands.
I think that's fair. And yeah, ultimately I limp. Straddle checks, so we are 3 ways to a flop. This is a we are 6-handed right now, by the way, because a bunch of people were off doing stuff. I don't know.
Right.
So this is 3 ways. Under the gun +1, who open limped, is a very sort of weak tight player. So
okay.
I'm not really concerned about him. The flop comes Queen of Spades, 9 of Clubs, 9 of Spades.
Okay. So we've got the second not flush draw here.
Correct. On a paired board.
Yep.
And my plan here was to check raise.
I think that's fine.
Okay. You do?
I do. I kind of so and again it's a little weird because you're 6-handed, so I don't mind leading here either, and you're only playing 3 ways on the flop. But if you think about, I know we've both done a lot of studying and read about like bomb pots where, if you're in a bomb pot, a lot of the times from early position, you pretty much like don't bet. You want to like always check raise, right? Or fold. And I think I've kind of tried to take that logic and apply it to like super multi-way limped pots. Like if I'm in the big blind with like some garbage and I make a strong hand or a strong draw, I basically try to check raise because you could just like apply a lot of pressure that way. So I don't dislike it, and like I think and also like I don't even mind if the flop checks around either.
Well, so there's only 3 of us, so this isn't super multi-way.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's what I was saying. But I understand that the situation is a little bit different. But like I don't even mind if this flop checks around because like there can definitely be like a ton of 9s in like both of their ranges that we just like. And if they decide to play trappy, like we can just hit a free. I don't mind getting a free card either. So.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, that's what happens. It checks around. So.
Yeah. So I think that's fine. I don't dislike betting either because like obviously when we get called, we can like keep applying like a lot of pressure. But the ranges here are so wide. It's like it's a little bit strange. Like if we get called by the straddle, there's so many hands that like the straddle can have, and it definitely makes future streets like pretty complicated. And I do think a lot of the time when they check back, it does cap their range because I think most people would start betting with a 9.
True. I think you're right. I think most people would bet with a 9. I obviously don't think a 9 is folding to a single check raise, but we can construct a double barreling range fairly easily here. So, okay. Well, checks around. So still $30 in the pot plus the small blind minus the rake, and then the turn comes the 5 of clubs.
Okay, so brick.
It's a second flush draw out there.
Yep.
And I decide to lead for 20.
Okay. I think lead once it's checked through. I think this is we're taking a stab. I think we're probably gonna get called a lot here, but I do think that barreling the river will take things down a lot. Like again, if you kind of think about this from a position standpoint, like we are kind of being in the first to act position, the big blind with two people behind us. We're like we are the only one who's allowed to like check a 9 on the flop at all, right? Like really, I would say, right? Because if you were in the straddle and someone checked to you and you had a strong like a 9 or king 7 suited, you'd be betting, right?
Sure.
And if you were in the under the gun limper position, because you do a lot of limping from under the gun, I know, and you had one of those hands and it checked to you in position, you'd obviously be betting a lot, like a lot of hands, right? So we're the only ones who's really allowed to have a really strong hand, a really strong draw here. So I do like betting because I think that they've both shown a lot more weakness, and we are like the ones who can have some slow plays.
Sure, I think that's fair. And yeah, this street I thought was fairly straightforward. We do get called by the straddle and the under the gun +1 limper folds.
Okay.
So we are now at a $70 pot.
Yep.
And the river is the 8 of spades. We make a flush.
So this is really why you're thinking, should have started betting the flop, because it's just start shoveling money in.
Well, what are you doing on this street?
I think I'm betting quite big.
How big?
I actually don't even hate overbetting here. I mean, I think we can do that a lot with like bricked clubs, because I think we do. I think given the action, like clubs is a hand that's reasonably likely for us to have, because we checked the flop, we started betting on the turn with it when a second flush draw came out. So I like taking a big sizing and just like I guess I don't really know what strong hands the straddler has is the issue. So I don't know. I guess it depends on like what hands we're really targeting here.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, what are we hoping to get called by? I mean, a smaller flush, I guess, is certainly possible, but not a lot of those out there. I mean, shouldn't be. I feel like villain shouldn't really ever have the nut flush here, like as played.
Agree. Yeah,
ever?
I agree.
Like I don't know what like checking this, like especially from a fairly competent player. I don't think they're checking the straddle a lot after a limp with a suited ace.
Well, and then I also just don't think they're checking on the flop. Like it clearly seems like she does kind of is pretty aggressive, right? And like kind of knows how to as you said, she's fairly competent. So I do think I think from her especially, her range is like quite. I guess maybe we should take a smaller sizing because her range is pretty capped from the flop. Just because, like, I think she should be betting, like, strong hands. Like, the only really strong hand she can have here is, like, pocket 5s, right? That's, like...
Sure.
Like, I feel like she should be betting 9s. She probably is betting some amount of queens on the flop, although if she has, like, queen 3, queen deuce offsuit, probably not. Which are, again, it's a limped pot, so these are all hands she can have.
I mean, I actually think we would get looked up by a queen.
Okay.
Even for that kind of sizing.
Then yeah, I mean, I do like overbetting because a lot of her range is also just going to be nothing, right? That just like, I don't know, maybe she floated the turn with like ace high because she thought it might be good and it's just not going to call any bet.
Right.
And maybe that hand will bluff, but like I don't know that just because she has so many hands in this being in the straddle in a limped pot, I don't really know that she's turning enough hands into bluffs for us to like want to like check raise or check call or whatever.
Yeah. I think a check raise could never possibly be correct here.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. I agree.
I think a check call strategy to induce a bluff has some merit. Anyway, interesting that you said that because that's what I did. I bet $100.
Okay.
And for basically all the reasons you said. And then villain raises to 350.
Oh,
I know.
Gross.
I know. That's what I was like. Wah.
Yeah, because like, wow, that's such a wow. This villain just loves putting us in nasty spots. But I guess that's like how they're like a relatively competent player is like if they just consistently make you feel like you've just thrown up in your mouth.
Yeah. No, I was like, ugh. Yeah. What are you doing here?
Wow. I mean, it's just such a strange spot because, like, I don't know. Is she playing? Maybe she plays trappy. Like the one hand she could be trapping on the flop is like queen 9 offsuit, right? or I guess queen nine suited, but there's two combos of queen nine suited. There's plenty more of queen nine offsuit, and
Yeah,
maybe if
queen
you have
nine. There's a total of 6 combos of queen nine.
yeah, and if you have like I guess if you have the board that locked up, you might check. But honestly, like I still wouldn't check in that situation because it's a limped pot.
Well,
Like
no, I don't think checking. I don't think checking is very good. I'm just saying, what do we do when we get raised to 350?
I know, and I'm just kind of talking through like what strong hands villain can have, and like honestly, I feel like it's like just pocket fives, right? What are there?
Yeah, pocket fives and queen nine.
And the other thing, like maybe she does have a smaller flush that she's raising. I think that's probably a bit of an overplay when you overbet. Like I don't.
We do know this villain is capable of making thin value bets.
Right. So, but against an overbet, it like
Yeah.
it's like especially if you have kind of demonstrated competence in this session, which I highly doubt.
Yeah.
Then it's so weird to be raising this overbet, but I just think like let's so we have to call two.
So let's review, just for the listeners. Let's review the board here real quick.
Go for it.
I have king 7 of spades. The board is queen of spades, 9 of clubs, 9 of spades. The turn is the 5 of clubs, and the river is the 8 of spades. I have the second nut flush. We have determined that queen 9 and 5-5 are the boats villain can have. Bluffs, what? The stiff ace of spades? Like, is that it?
That's I mean I think so. So the thing is, I think there's a stiff
ace of spades and a 9. Oh my god, that'd be so sick.
I think the stiff ace of spades. It doesn't even need to be a 9. It could be with like another pair, right? Like ace 5 with the ace of spades would be like a good combo because that like blocks many of your value hands. Mm-hmm. So I think so. We're getting like this is basically a pot size raise, right? Like we have to call 250 to win 270.
Yeah, 3 and 2 to 1.
And like I just think between those like bluff combos and the possibility that she's overplaying a small flush once in a while, like the jack high flush, I guess. Like I guess she could. Okay, she could also. No, I don't think she could. I was gonna say she could have jack 10 of spades, but I don't think she can because again, that's another hand you just want to start shoveling money in on the flop, and she probably would raise pre, honestly.
Yeah.
So
no, that's the thing. I didn't really think there were a lot of overplayed flushes, which is sort of the issue. Like at the time, I was like, oh, maybe there's some overplayed flushes here, but like in hindsight, like really are there? Like really, like jack 6 of spades? Like why?
But also, so there's 9 value combos basically, right? That beat us. There's 6 queen 9s and there's 3 pocket 5s.
Yeah.
And so we only need to find like 4 or 5. No, yeah, because we need to be good 1 in 3 times basically when we make this call, right? So we need to find
good one out of 3 times. And we said how many value combos? Sorry,
9. So we need to find 4.5.
4.5 bluffs, right? Sorry.
Which I think we can, right? Like I think if she's turning the ace of spades into a bluff, like there are plenty of offsuit aces with the ace of spades that she could just check. But she might not be. She obviously might not do that 100% of the time.
I just don't know that she's calling the turn with that many. I think like probably it's just like ace 5, really, if we're being real. So it's probably like 3 combos there of ace 5 off with the ace of spades.
Yeah.
That's like kind of the only logical bluff, I think.
Right. Yeah, ace 9 again. I think it's just betting the flop. I guess maybe because ace 8. You're right. Probably wouldn't be calling the turn, but it might. Like the thing is, like I don't know. Like a random ace high might just call the turn, like because it's you could reasonably construe it as just taking a stab with like a bunch of garbage, and then like maybe she expects you to like because if you're in her shoes and like someone bets. You might say, oh, I can float the turn here, and if the action goes check on the river, I'm going to win a lot.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, just to be clear for the audience, so I'm getting 2 to 1. So for every X to 1 you're getting for every X value combos your villain has, you need 1 bluff. So we are getting 2 to 1. Our villain we determined 9 value combos, so that means we need for every 2. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, so that means we need 4.5 to find 4.5 bluffs. We found 3 logical ones. Josh has posited that there are a few other illogical ones, sort of illogical, like, floating with ace high in the middle, which I think is a little dubious, but possible.
And the other thing is that like the only like there's 1.5 like if she plays one combo of a flush this way, then like we are basically getting the right odds. Like
then we have to call.
Right? If she's ever doing this with any combo, we have to call. So I just want like for that reason, like I just think we have to call here. But it is a brutal spot, and against most, I would say also against most live players, I would snap fold.
Snap fold. If you're playing against a gentleman over the age of 50, this is a snap fold, and you are a donk if you call this back.
Yeah. So let's also say that this is specifically because this villain has shown competence and aggression and the ability to bluff.
Yeah. So we put the money in.
Okay.
And we get shown Queen of Hearts, 9 of Diamonds.
Oh, damn. That is that I mean, it is what it is. It definitely sucks, but I think again, I just think she should be betting those on the flop. Honestly, like in a limped pot, I just think you're gonna get called a lot, even if you have the board locked up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we can even take away some value combos. You could make the argument because not all of them will be slow played that way. So.
Yeah, so I think it's a fine call, like just because she can be bluffing. And
yeah, after
like,
talking through it, I feel a little bit less bad. Although I will say, just because both of us agree a line is acceptable, like that might even be evidence of how bad of a line it is. So,
Bart, if you come across our podcast somehow, please tell us Please tell us the truth.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, viewers, let us know in the comments about what you think. So, all right, last hand, Josh.
All right, so this is a doozy, and it's one. It's definitely one that I've given a lot of thought since its occurrence. So definitely want to talk through as we move later in the hand. It's going to be against the same villain here. This kind of young Asian guy, aggressive, pretty decent. I am in the big blind in this hand, and we're playing pretty deep. We're playing 620 effective. There's no straddle on. So 200 big blinds, which is great. I like the ability to get deep stacked. As we've said before, this 1-3 Encore Boston Harbor game is the same buy-in as your 2-5 best bet game. So it does get quite deep stacked. The action can get very crazy. And it's going to start, as many live poker hands do, with a limp from middle position before the villain raises to 20. Which is a little bit big, but over a limp, I think it makes sense. He definitely raises to 15 a lot of the time, especially if there's no limps. So it's no alarm bells ringing or anything like that.
What seat is he in?
He is going to be in the hijack in this hand, and it folds to me in the big blind with Ace of Clubs, King of Hearts. Okay. So I am going to 3-bet here. I decide to go 75, which is a little bit under 4x. I could go 80. I could go 85 just because of the limper, but I decided to go 75. I don't know why. I think they're all in the ballpark.
Probably 80, 85 is more correct, but yeah, it doesn't super matter.
I agree.
If the limper was not there, would you ever consider flatting here with ace king off versus a competent villain?
I would sometimes, but I think opening from the hijack, I probably am still 3-betting most of the time. Maybe once in a while I'll call with ace king off, but I think, and if he opened from like middle position or earlier, I would definitely weight more towards calling with nobody in the middle. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think from the hijack, I think it's late enough where I would probably be raising most of the time.
Yeah, and I think ace king off should be 3-bet most of the time, especially against most live players. But sometimes against a competent player, you do like to if you're really utilizing a properly polarized 3-betting strategy from the big blind, it is nice to have some premiums in that flatting range. And ace king off is a great candidate. So.
And with the limper, I obviously think it's a slam dunk.
Oh yeah, with the limper you can.
So the limper snap folds, as you might expect, and the villain doesn't take too long before calling. So I made it 75 with ace-king offsuit in the big blind. I got called by the opener, this Asian reg, young Asian reg, aggro, good. Pot's now about 150, and the flop is going to come out ace of spades, 9 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds.
And you do not have the king of diamonds.
We don't have a diamond at all, and the ace is not a diamond here.
Okay. So, sorry, what are the suits of your hand again?
I've got the ace of clubs and the king of hearts.
Ace of clubs, king of hearts. Okay.
So I am going to bet here. I think, the board is quite dry, right? The only draw is a diamond draw. So I actually elect to take a quite small sizing here. I go 40.
40 into 150? Okay. Why? I agree. I think that my tendency when the board is so good for me is like a lot of times, and it's really dry, like I do like to maybe sometimes take a larger sizing because they're forced to defend down with more hands because they don't have as many made hands, even marginal made hands.
Okay.
So I might size up a bit here. I don't think it's bad to just range bet this board, though. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, I kind of think more the other way, where if the board is a little bit wetter, I try to polarize a bit more. Might put a lot of top pair hands into like sort of check call, and then like put like really strong hands and really strong draws and bet larger. I don't love the idea of betting like all my hands, for a larger sizing here.
Definitely not. No. But I think you might be able to bet more hands. Like it's using a mixed flop sizing strategy is like really hard to do well. But it's something I've been trying to incorporate into my game, like seeing spots where like there are some hands I can take for a large sizing on certain boards that I might otherwise just range bet. I don't know. Might be stupid. Might be better to just do what you did. So.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think I probably can. I mean, I probably can size up, I don't know, maybe like half pot-ish.
That's the only bet size allowed.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And by the way, I know we've made this joke before, but for our listeners, there was a guy in a home game that we played that literally only ever bet half pot. Like, it was very funny, and we laughed about it a lot after the fact, because like it really was like no
100%.
Matter the texture, aggressor, not aggressor, donking, betting in position, half pot. Always.
And what was funny about it was he one time made a comment like, I really screwed up that stream. Instead of checking, I should have bet half pot. So it's like he was really doing it on purpose and thinking about it and have come to the conclusion that was correct. So
sorry for that detour, but anyway, I elect to go small here, and I do see your point that when the board is dry, we can get they just have to defend with like. But I don't know what hands villain is necessarily defending with that are bad. Like I guess you're kind of saying that if he has like 10-9 or 9-8 here, he kind of has to defend regardless of sizing. Is that what you're thinking?
I'm more thinking if he has like a small pocket pair, like sixes. Like I think that on a board, let's say like the board was like, queen 8-7 or queen 8-5 or something like that. Or jack 8-5, I don't know, something like that, like, sort of a middling board. If you bet really large, he's going to fold pocket sixes, and if you bet really small, he's going to call with pocket sixes. But on this board, he should call most sizes with pocket sixes.
Really? I don't think he would be calling like a large sizing with pocket sixes on this board necessarily.
But like, I guess because I think he has so few hands that can call, because he's so likely to make a decent hand on this board. Like, he has so many non-pair. He has so many hands that aren't pocket pairs, that are just air.
That's true.
So, he has. I mean, who knows how if this guy's really thinking in this way? But if he's constructing his continuance range right, he should be continuing with more hands than he normally would. So.
Right, but I do still, because if I take a larger sizing, he has to defend with fewer hands also, so he can start. And I think the first hands you cut. I mean, obviously you have your junk hands that you're folding out either way. So I'd really have to look at the composition of his range and. But I don't know that, pocket eights and below are in the top X% if I were to take, a 2/3 pot sizing or something. I'm not sure.
All right, we're on a tangent here. So,
but that's a good point. Anyway,
he calls your $40.
He does call. It would be a boring hand otherwise, as I like to say.
Cool.
So the turn, I would say, is a pretty bad one. It's the Queen of Diamonds.
Okay, so you're now losing to Ace Queen. You're now losing 2 diamond draws.
Yes. And I'm sort of thinking about this hand, and I kind of thought a lot about what to do on this turn after the fact. So I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on what you're doing here. Not necessarily just with Ace King, with no diamond, but what you might be doing with a number of hands, in your range here.
Yeah, in general, this is for sure a better card for him. But I will say he doesn't really have like a huge nut advantage on this board. Like, yes, he has more flushes, but not that many more flushes. Like, we also have some flushes. And we have more sets. Like, we have Queen Queen, we have Ace Ace. We have 9-9. He also has 9-9, of course. He can have Queen Queen here too.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know necessarily that we're 3-betting 9-9 from the big blind a whole lot.
Yeah, probably not. You're right. We probably don't have 9-9. You're right. So, okay, but we have, we
have Ace Ace and Queen Queen, obviously, and he probably doesn't.
And we still have a range advantage on this board. We still have more strong hands than he does. So I don't really like the idea of checking this board, I guess. But if we bet and get raised, like, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, no. So let me run this idea by you. This is kind of a thought I had after that. I think it's fine to start putting some strong hands into a checking range to protect it against an aggressive player here. Mm-hmm. But my thought is sort of, a good hand to put into a check calling range would be Ace King with the Ace of Diamonds. Because that's like a big value hand he can have, right? Is because the ace is not a diamond here. And like Ace King offsuit with the Ace of Diamonds like just blocks so many value hands that like if he starts betting, he's like very heavily weighted towards bluffs. Versus a hand like Ace King offsuit. To your point, obviously if we bet and get raised, I think we fold Ace King offsuit here, right? But if we and like we do have enough hands that we're bet calling because we do have like a lot of sets. We have our own flushes. Like we are obviously 3-betting quite a good amount of suited aces.
Yeah, we definitely, like, our range is fairly protected here. Like, he shouldn't be raising us light. Really.
Right, exactly.
He shouldn't. He also really shouldn't be raising with the stiff Ace of Diamonds because he has showdown value. A lot of it. So, if we're getting raised here, like, what does it really indicate? Is like a small flush, I guess. Like,
or 9-9, maybe.
Yeah. Is 9-9 taken this way? I don't know. Sometimes, sure. It's a weird card to raise on with 9-9 though.
So this is just kind of what I'm thinking because what I wind up doing is checking, and I don't know what you think about that, and I know you've kind of gone back and forth, and I also have gone back and forth since the hand because I think it's just a weird card, like, and I wonder if I'm just supposed to be betting small with this hand, with flushes, with aces, with queens, and then I have like kind of playability to fold Ace King offsuit with no diamonds and call with my strong made hands and like check call with my Ace Kings that block flushes.
Sure. So no, I hear you. I'm just wondering, like, what is he calling us with also if we bet on this treat? Like, if you think he's just bad and we'll call with like Ace Jack no diamond,
which I don't know that he will. I don't know that he will, but also if we were to bet small, like maybe he's kind of priced into calling with like that.
Yeah, but if he's savvy, he knows he might know to just like. He might put pressure on you. I don't know. I guess if you bet small and he has like Ace Jack off, it's sort of close. He's not supposed to really have Ace Jack off when you 3-bet from the big blind, though. That's the other thing. Like, if you think he has too many hands here, then I kind of could see going for a small bet. But if you think he's relatively reasonable, I think check calling is good because, if you check and he bets, it would be insane to fold.
Yeah.
So I think that like you have a very robust check call strategy there. Versus like a bet fold strategy there is sort of like, I don't know, like villain could be sniffing things out here, and betting large is just crazy because you're getting called by nothing. So I think check calling is good. I think what you did is good.
And that's why I was kind of thinking with the betting structure of, if we bet small with like a just all out, like what are you doing here with pocket aces or with a flush, for example?
Pocket aces or with a flush. With pocket aces, that's sort of interesting because we block a lot of the hands that would call us.
And I guess it depends on if we have a diamond too with our pocket aces.
Sure. If pocket aces with a diamond, I think has to be bet.
Yeah.
100%. Because like you're not afraid of anything. You just want to put money in. So I think pocket aces with a diamond is an easy bet. I think pocket aces no diamond. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I don't hate like checking pocket aces no diamond, which I think means that ace king no diamond should also be checked. By the way, and I really think ace king with a diamond, to be honest with you, should be bet because you are protected.
Right.
So I actually am going to say that what you did is correct, and your idea of putting the ace king with a diamond into a check calling range, I think is worse because I think you can bet those hands and like if you get raised, like you can be like,
But the interesting thing that I was also thinking is that like ace king with the king of diamonds doesn't matter as much because like ace x of diamonds is like probably a decent part of his range at this point that like and king x of diamonds probably isn't like calling a 3-bet that much.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
So, but okay, fair enough. I might be thinking about it a little bit backwards, but I was just sort of thinking, if I like you do need to have some hands, right? When you bet, like you can have hands that are bet folds and hands that are bet calls.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. That's why I was kind of thinking of this hand. If ace king off unblocks all his value, but like can still get called by worse, probably one more street.
Yeah, but I think we want to maybe target the river for that because there aren't a lot of draws we're trying to get value from here. So I want to check call, which I think is what you did, right?
Yes, I check, and he bets 125, which is a bit over half pot. Okay. Great sizing. And I do call.
Okay.
So the pot is now about 485, and he's got 380 left in his stack.
All right.
And the river comes a massive brick. It's the 3 of clubs. And I check, and he rips it. And this is kind of where I was thinking. This is kind of what led to my line of thinking about the whole, like, ace king with a diamond versus ace king without a diamond versus, like, what am I doing with pocket aces? Because the issue with, like, putting this hand into a check call range is that this hand is like the strongest hand I have that check calls the turn.
Well, no, we just said pocket aces, no diamond.
Right, which is one combo.
Yeah.
Which is like not which sure, yes. If we decide to do that, absolutely. Pocket aces, no diamond, which might be a good candidate.
Maybe pocket queens also?
No diamond. Okay. So we found two. So it's just one of these situations where basically as he jammed, I like tanked for quite a while, and I basically was thinking, what better hands am I checking? Because I don't even know if I want to be like check calling aces and queens with no diamond because like it is.
Wait a minute, I don't really agree with this. I think you would check call ace queen on the turn. I think you would check call ace 9 suited on the turn. So I don't think you have the best hand here at all. I think you can fold.
Okay, because I don't know if I'm checking ace queen on the turn, like. I guess ace queen. You think ace queen no diamond can check on the turn? Because I think that hand can I don't know. I think ace 2 pair and better can get value from worse.
What is ace queen off? Let's say or ace queen suited or whatever. Ace queen of spades.
I
don't know if the ace is a spade, but
I know. But sure, ace queen suited.
Ace queen. What are you getting value from with ace queen that you're not getting value from on the turn with ace queen?
Say it again.
What are you getting value from with ace queen on the turn that you're not getting value from with ace king?
Well, I guess like ace 9 or ace deuce.
Sure, those are the only. But like
suited, they're like he can have. I think he can. I mean, he can have those hands, but it's like 2 combos.
He will also probably bet those, so you can check call. Still,
that's true. That's true. So yeah, so maybe I was kind of thinking about maybe in my head my betting range is too big. Because for the listeners, I've got ace king offsuit with no diamond. The board is ace of spades, 9 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds. Then the turn came the queen of diamonds, and the river is a brick. It's an offsuit 3. I have checked, and my opponent has now jammed for about 3/4 pot. And I think I probably agree with you. If I think I was just kind of, and this is where I was kind of thinking about how to balance my checking range with like the ace king with the diamond. But it might make more sense to do with, the ace queens that don't have a diamond, right? Do you think I can bet ace queen with the ace of diamonds on the turn?
Absolutely.
Because if we're betting ace king with the ace of diamonds, we probably should bet ace queen with the ace of diamonds.
Yep, I do. And I think that, by the way, like, he could be making a thin value shove here with a set, which obviously you also lose to, and having ace queen, ace 9 blocks those hands better. So I really think that those are much better hands to call with. I think the ace king is I think check calling on the turn with ace king is correct, and I think folding ace king here on the river is probably
yeah. I think you're probably right, because I think just check calling, being able to check call turn with some 2 pairs and some sets definitely helps sort of balance out the range. That's why I wanted to talk about this hand, because I was like really thinking about it a lot after and being like, wow, how am I supposed to make my, construct my ranges here to not get into this situation? And I did make the call because of my faulty logic, and he did show me ace jack of diamonds, which, is the nuts. So that's which, is probably to be expected more or less. So yeah. Just kind of interesting thought about range construction and which hands to put where and how to sort of, make that work with having to defend a certain amount. So, okay. Well, I think that, and I see your point too, that, if I check with like ace king with the ace of diamonds on the turn and check call and he like jams river, he can still be doing that with like sets a lot or other flushes. And so it might just make sense to be bet calling. And just like if he has a set, at least I'm blocking the flush or have outs.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, but really interesting hand. Like, not an obvious. The turn I think is the most interesting part of that hand. It's a really weird turn card.
Yeah, it's brutal turn card.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's always weird when you have like a range advantage and the nut advantage is like murky and then your opponent just starts like blasting.
Yeah. Especially, again, it's live poker, so like, if this is just your sort of standard live reg, they probably have you beat there a lot, But
yeah.
when you're playing against someone who sort of knows what they're doing, it's a lot harder. So.
Yeah, but
you know what you're doing in poker, which is why we are bad at poker.
And also to your point here, like, him having the naked ace of diamonds wouldn't really make sense as a bluff unless he's like a real Chad.
Like a true Giga Chad.
Yeah, like he would need to identify like my ace 5 offsuit with the ace of diamonds that I inexplicably called a 3-bet with is no good. I need to turn it into a bluff.
Yeah. So.
Which would be sick. That would be sick if he did that.
Absolutely.
But he didn't. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up, Josh.
Yeah, I think that's it. Good to have a video one. I think we had a lot of really, really interesting hands. Weird value. And we both made some calls.
Questionable calls.
Well, yeah, I think your call was probably, we decided that your call probably makes sense and my call probably doesn't.
Yeah, my call's probably close. I think it makes sense is a little generous, but it's close.
Well, it's close to making sense.
Yeah. Well, if you like the video format, everybody, let us know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel.
And please leave a comment on how we could have played these hands better.
Alrighty. Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.